And so looking for a cat that's going to be more laid back and easygoing, more or less like, oh, okay, that's fine. I'll just go sit on the back of the couch, or I'll just go someplace else and do some things.
As long as and I agree with Cheryl. As long as a royalty kitty or a queen kitty, or we call them blue bloods actually, as long as they can continue to be the dominant kitty, the more assertive kitty in the territory, they're comfortable with bringing in an easygoing, laid-back cat. So again, dependent on that.
And I think it's also important for people to remember that when we have dogs are very social, and they live in a pack.
Sure.
And they have a definite hierarchy. Cats do not have that same definite structure to a hierarchy, but that doesn't mean that they can't get along with others of their own kind. And so it's more of looking at their personality, their socialization, and even with male kitties, male and girl kitties. When we've seen litters here at the shelter that are boys and girls, the girls learn how to play with the boys and learn how to be a little bit more rough and tumble, or if you'll excuse the expression, a little tom girl. Where kittens, if you have all males in a litter or you have all females in a litter, or sometimes we get those stray kittens in that are just individual kitties, they have a harder time becoming more social and maybe more independent, or they're not as willing to coexist with other kitties. And so when somebody's bringing another kitty into their home, what they need to remember is it may not be, and this happened to me personally, I had cats that slept together, ate together, groomed each other, played together, and when one of my cats passed away, I got another cat, and there was a tolerance. There wasn't that tight bond like there had been with the original, but at least they were amicable to each other. They tolerated one another. And so that's something else people need to think about when they're bringing another cat into the home, is that it may not be a really close, a love match, exactly. Right. It may be more of just a tolerance. And I think cats do enjoy the company of others, even if it is just a tolerance.
Sure, and I totally agree with that. And that kind of goes into the other, Cheryl talked about like the difference between cats and dogs living in pack structures, and cats live more in a colony structure. The other thing to remember, the very, very important thing, what do you need to do when you bring your new kitty home? That's very, very important, and we always encourage our adopters to create what we call a safe room. In other words, don't bring your new cat home and give it the entire run of the house or the apartment. That's way too much territory too quickly, too fast. We talked about the importance of territory and how cats really identify with that. And when you remove a cat from its territory, such as the shelter here, and then you move it to a new territory, that's pretty scary. Stress levels real high on a cat when they get into a new territory. They're very cautious. They're very frightened. Or can be just stressed. And so if you reduce that territory for them, in other words, give them just one room to acclimate, it's much, much easier for them. And let's talk about some of the reasons we would do that, Cheryl.
Well, a safe room to me is when you have kittens in a safe room, or a cat, a newcomer in a safe room, it does three things. It allows the cat to get used to the sounds and smells in your home from a safe place. For example, if I came to your home, Joni, and let's say, and I was in the guest room with the door shut, oh, that's the sound of the furnace running. Right. Oh, that's the sound of the telephone, or the doorbell, or the sound that the house makes when the door opens and closes. Those things can be very frightening to a cat in a new territory. But because they're in this smaller area, they can adjust to that. Being in that safe room also helps them adapt to, it makes you know that when they're confined to that smaller area, they're definitely hitting the litter box before you're letting them, explore the rest of the home. The other thing that it does is it also gives you an opportunity to make sure that the cat that you have brought home is healthy before you're exposing your kitty at home to the newcomer. As much as everyone strives to take home a healthy animal, animals can have can be coming down with a cold. You may be perfectly healthy today, and tomorrow Joni may come in sneezing and have a cold. And the same thing can happen with cats. And so by creating that safe room, I never like to use the room isolation. A lot of times people think, oh, I have to isolate them. And it's not isolation. This should be a room where you're going to go in and interact with the new cat. And that's very helpful because you go in that room and interact with your new kitty, and then when you come out, your existing kitty can pick up some of those smells, and it allows both animals to become more comfortable with each other before there's an actual meeting taking place. Because cats are very, very sensitive. It's to introduce them immediately through sight and smell is way too overwhelming. It overstimulates everybody, and it ends up with a negative interaction.
Right.
And that's one of the things that you want to avoid.
And that will stick with a cat. So it is important to do a nice slow interaction. Scent, we talked about scent. Scent is so important to cats, and of course if you reduce that territory and you allow that kitty to actually go throughout that territory and leave their scent behind, and I don't mean marking, but I'm talking about scents. They have scent right above their ears, or below their ears, excuse me. They have scent area there, and they have scents on their pads. So when cats go around a territory and they rub up against things, and then they do with the pads and so on and so forth, they're actually leaving part of their scent behind so that when they come back through that territory, they can go, oh yeah, I was here already. So that's what happens when you're actually introducing them to a household.
Right. I always refer to that as friendly marking or claiming territory.
Sure.
I'm letting you know that, ooh, I like this couch.
Right.
Ooh, sometimes your cat may actually come up to you and scratch on your
or
pant
they
leg.
rub up against you.
Right, and they're saying, ooh, I like you. That's a positive or a friendly marking. And so when your cat is doing that, he's feeling comfortable and he's trying to make his new home his own.
Sure.
And usually when a cat is new to a territory, they're going to do more of that until they feel really comfortable. Now, people may be wondering, well, how long do I have to leave this cat in a safe room? And ideally we would like them to leave the new animal, the new pet, in the safe room 5 to 7 days. But unfortunately, sometimes the cat themselves scratches at the door, wants to come out. I want to see what's out here. I want to see what's going on. And people get anxious and excited, and they open the door. And so the important thing is that if they can even do it 2 to 3 days, again, make sure that new arrival is hitting that litter box, and to make sure that there's no health concerns. And then you're slowly going to do introduction. You're going to open the door, and I always tell people, have something going on. Have a toy, something like what's attached to my chair here, that you can help the kitties maybe engage in play, or maybe a food treat, or be able to redirect. So that if something negative starts to happen, you're going to be looking for body language, ears back, back arched, tail puffed up. Yes, there's going to be some hissing or growling, but what you want to avoid at all costs is an actual altercation. And so oftentimes if you see one start stalking the other or whatever, you can just clap your hands and say, and again, because of this safe room, Joni, I have found that most cats, because they're acclimated to that new room,
that's where they'll go. They
will run to that new room rather than running in the opposite direction and maybe running down into the basement or hiding under the couch. And here again, if a cat is frightened, the worst thing you can do is try to crawl under the couch and drag them out.
Sure.
And so if they run back into their safe room, you can just close the door and again, try again. And introduction should be slowly. I tend to be overcautious, so I always tell people, what you're comfortable with, that's how you should proceed. And, we as humans, we fall in love with those animals so quickly, and so then our goal is to create a relationship or a match with the kitties that we're bringing home.
Sure. And I think it's important to remember, too, especially when you're dealing with kittens, you want to create this safe room not only because of the introduction, how important that is, but you touched briefly upon litter box. It is really, really important for kittens that they have a litter box close by in their territory. And if you give them way too much territory too quickly, they won't necessarily find that litter box as quickly. So as an adult, that's a little bit easier for them, but I think as a kitten, you're in the process of training them and reinforcing really good litter box habits. So that's something that is extremely important as well.
It really is, Joni, because a lot of times People let their kitten have full run of the house, and while they know where the litter box is. Well, kittens are very much like human children. Oh, I'm playing, I'm having a good time, and oh, I don't have to go quite yet, and then all of a sudden, ooh, I gotta go, and oh, there's a corner of the living room, and you may not find it all right away.
Right.
And then you have started a bad behavior, or one that's going to be difficult to correct. And so again, that safe room isn't punishment. This is a training period. Even if you have a kitten or a new arrival cat and you're in the process of introducing, let's say, a 5-year-old cat to your 7-year-old cat, and they seem to be getting along really well, and it's on a Saturday, and all of a sudden, oh, Joni, let's go shopping.